Hello viewers, welcome to Kids Auto and Truck Repair. Today we have a Acura TL. I don't remember exactly what year this Acura is. So this Acura was dropped off here by a tow truck. The customer called me and told me that he was driving, he parked, and then he got back to his car. When he started the vehicle, he was getting ready to drive. He noticed that the steering wheel became very hard. So the steering wheel is really hard to turn. So he couldn't turn the steering wheel anymore. He called the tow truck. He towed the vehicle to us. So here we are. So now the first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna go in the vehicle. I'm gonna show you how hard the steering wheel is, and then hopefully we can fight the steering wheel so we can drive the vehicle in the shop, and then we're gonna figure out what's going on with this Acura. So let me go in the vehicle. By the way, before we go in the vehicle, I wanna acknowledge our cameraman Kyler. Thanks for being here. Thank you for the awesome work you're doing. So now, let's see. We have a message on the dash that says check power steering system. Oh, the steering wheel is really hard. Okay, I'm gonna show you the dash. So right there, we have a message on the dash that says check power steering system. And then there's a symbol right there of the steering wheel on the dash. Okay, and the steering wheel is very hard. So customer's complaint confirmed. Yeah, so I gotta fight the steering wheel. Okay, so I'm gonna drive in the shop now. Yeah, steering wheel is really hard, really hard. Dang, there's no power steering on this thing. Kyler is laughing at me. Dude, I don't want to muscle up this early. It's so early. I just came from the gym. Jeez, my arms are sore. Ugh. Dang. Yeah, oh man. You can't drive this thing. Steering wheel is really hard. All right, so we are in the shop. I'm gonna turn off the engine. Let's turn the key on. I have our scan tool connected to the vehicle. Let's see what we got. Okay, so let's do a code scan. We're gonna scan all the control units on the vehicle and see what we have. So we clearly have a problem in the electric power steering system. So the scan tool has identified the vehicle. This is a 2004 Acura TL with a 3.5 liter engine. So 14 Acura TL. And then this vehicle has, how many miles does it have? This vehicle has 126,000 miles, 716. So 126,000 miles. That's not a lot. Okay, let's do a code scan and see what we got. Okay, so right off the bat, we have 0 codes in the engine computer, no codes in the transmission control unit. So that's good. I mean, 126,000 miles is not a lot for an Acura. I mean, this is just a glorified Honda. So 125 is not a lot for these vehicles. Okay, we have 1 code in the electric power steering. The code is 32-09. It says motor current correlation. That's interesting. Motor current correlation. Now, I've fixed a similar issue a long time ago. This was a very long time ago, actually before I started making videos on YouTube. This was a long time, I think 9 or 8 years ago. A while back, I had a similar case. I think it was on an Acura MDX. So this has electric power steering. We know that. When I fixed that car last time, because I'm remembering, because this is like deja vu to me. I remember what I did last time was the steering became hard, and the issue on that vehicle ended up being a bad electric power steering control unit. And the electric power steering control unit on that car was around the glove box, so on the side of the glove box. So maybe it could be the same issue with this, because I remember this code. It said the same thing, motor current correlation. And maybe we have the same issue here too. But we're not just going to assume. We're going to do some testing to figure out if the electric power steering control unit on this vehicle is defective also. Now, since this is an electric system, there is an electric power control unit that controls the electric rack and pinion. So when you turn the steering wheel, there are sensors and there is a motor over here that sends an input to the electric control unit, the electric power steering control unit, and then the electric power steering control unit controls the rack and pinion. So there are a bunch of sensors that talk to each other, and then that information gets sent to the module, and then the module controls the rack and pinion. So we could have a sensor that's not working well. We could have a fuse that's blown out. So we gotta do some testing to figure out what's going on. Let's scroll down and see what else we have. So we don't have a code in the engine computer, no codes in the transmission control unit, no codes in the airbag. We have one code in the electric power steering. We have one code in the ABS control unit. It says battery voltage failure. Okay, we have a couple codes here. I'm gonna notify the customer about all these other codes. But in this video, we're gonna focus on the code that we have in the electric power steering system. We don't have a code on the generic side of the tool, so that is good. So now let's go into the electric power steering system. Let me click on it. Okay, so it looks like we can go into the electric power steering control unit. Let's read the code. Motor current correlation. Okay, so let's look up this code, 32-9. Let's see if we can read about this code. So let's go to our service info. I want to look up this code and see if we have some information that will come up about this code. Because if we can find some code setting criteria for this code, that would be good. Hopefully our service information can load here. Okay, so right there, we're gonna search this code. So code is 32-9, motor current correlation. So 32-09, motor current correlation. Let's see what Metro says. Okay, so right here, steering control module. Great, let's click on it. Let's see if there's a TSB about this thing. Okay, so right now we're doing some research. We're familiarizing ourselves with the code that we have. Let's see what we're gonna find. So let's go to our top repairs. Okay, so when this code's set, the fix was replacing the power steering control module. Yeah, kind of like I said, I remember doing this a long time ago. The issue ended up being the module. So that's good information to have. Causes and fixes, let's go there. So when you have this code, this 32-09, the issue ends up being the power steering control module, okay? So commonly replaced part, 3 repairs, power steering control module. Okay, that's good to know. Yes, this is where the module is located. It's right there next to the glove box. And here it is. Okay, so we might have to get to the module and do some tests. We might have to test the wiring to see if it's getting power and ground. If our wiring to the module is good, we might have to replace that. So OEM testing, because based on what we're reading over here, let's see. So 32-08 electronic power steering control module internal circuit current sensor. So there's an internal sensor in the control unit. 32/09 more current correlation. Okay, we have some steps here. Turn the ignition switch to on or press the engine start stop button to select the on mode. Clear the DTC with HDS. Turn the ignition switch to lock 0 or press the engine start to stop button to select the off mode. Start the engine. Then the steering wheel, or turn the steering wheel to the right or left and wait 10 seconds or more. Check for DTCs with the HDS. Is DTC 3208 or 3209 indicated? If yes, go to step 7. Okay, so it looks like you can erase the code and turn the steering wheel to see if the code is gonna come back. No troubleshoot. If yes, go to stage 7. If no, troubleshoot the indicated DTC. If there are no DTCs, the system is okay at this time. Interesting. So you guys will see what I'm reading right now on the screen. Cameraman Kyler will put this up for you guys. So step 7. So if you erase the code, you turn off the key, you turn the key back on. If the code comes back, this is what they want you to do. Turn the ignition switch to the lock 0 or press the engine stop button to select the off mode. Disconnect the electronic power steering control unit, connector B and connector C. Check for continuity between following terminals of electronic power steering control unit, connector B, 2P, and connector C. Okay, so it looks like we can do this test over here. So it looks like we can do some resistance measurements over here. Okay, this is good to know. We can do this test at the electronic control unit, at the power steering control unit. Let's see if we have a specification here. So is there continuity? Yes. Check for loose terminals in the electronic power steering control unit connectors and EPS motor connectors, and repair if necessary. If no poor connections are found, replace the EPS control unit. Okay, this is good to know. And then 10, disconnect the EPS motor 3P connector. So the EPS motor, the electronic power steering motor, is the motor on the rack. So here they want you to disconnect that connector, which has 3 wires. I believe it's 3 heavy gauge wires. I think it's a red wire, a black wire, and a white wire, if I remember correctly. So they want you to ohm pin 1 and pin 3, and then they also want you to ohm pin 2 and 3, and then pin 1 and 2. Now, do we have values here? They didn't even give us resistance values that we should look for. Okay, let's back out. Component connector. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go through all this service info and read this to figure out what voltages or what resistances we need to get if we have to do a resistance test. I don't usually like doing a resistance test because resistance tests, in my opinion, tend to be very useless sometimes. Okay, let's see. So here is we have the electronic power steering control unit theory of operation. Okay, so guys, you can pause this and read about this if you want. Okay, I'm not gonna go through this on camera because this is kind of boring stuff. I'm gonna have to read through all this, and then we're gonna get to the module, which is next to the glove box. We might have to do a continuity test on those terminals, and then if everything checks out okay, I'm seeing a trend here. Okay, so it's recommending replacing the control unit, the power steering control unit, and that's what it's going to be. And there is a fuse under the hood that we have to check. Yeah, it's this fuse over here. It's a 70 amp fuse, so we might have to go check that first. It's this fuse here. Actually, before we go to the power steering control unit, so this fuse over here, EPS fuse, it's a 70 amp fuse. We might have to go check that first. And then these other fuses. Okay, what else do we have? So at this point, I'm just gathering all the info that we need to gather so we can figure out a plan of attack. This is the steering column. These are all the components that we have on the steering column. Yeah, so we don't have a motor here. I don't know if I said earlier that there's an electric motor here. If I said that, I was wrong. There isn't an electric motor here in the steering column. The electric motor is under the hood on the rack and pinion. Okay, there are sensors here. There's a steering wheel angle sensor that talks to the module, and then the module controls the motor on the rack and pinion. Okay, so enough talking. Let's do some tests. Let me just look this up really fast. Yeah, so everything is pointing us, the service info is pointing us towards the electric power steering control unit. Okay, so now here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to go back to our wiring diagram. Let's check our fuses first. Okay, let's check the 70 amp fuse that supplies power to the control unit. Okay, let's check the fuses, and then after that, if the fuses are good, then we're gonna go to the power steering control unit next to the glove box. We're gonna check our powers and grounds. We're also gonna do the continuity test, the home test, the resistance test that the service info is recommending we do on the electric motor wiring. If that's good, then we're gonna go ahead and call for a module, because we could have an opening in the wiring between the module and the electric motor under the hood. So we have to check those wires too. I doubt it, we have an open wire, but you never know. So that's why we do the test to figure out. So now let's go under the hood and check this 70 amp fuse. Before we check the fuse, I am going to erase the code. I want to erase the code and see if the code that we have in the electric power steering control unit is going to go away. So here is our code. Let's see, the key is on in the vehicle. So our code is in the engine computer. I mean, not the engine computer. I always think of the engine computer. Our code is in the electric power steering control unit, 32-09 more current correlation. So let me clear the code. Let's see if this code is going to go away. So we cleared the code. Let's read the code again. So the code is gone. Actually, I was expecting the code to stay here. The code is gone. Let me start the engine. I'm going to try to turn the steering wheel. I have our battery charger on the battery. Let me start the engine and see what's going to happen. All right, so the engine is running. The steering wheel light is still on the dash, and the steering wheel is still hard. And the message that says check power steering system is still displayed on the dash. So the steering wheel is still hard. I'm sure the code is gonna come back. So clearing the code didn't fix anything. The steering wheel is still hard. The message is still there on the dash. I'm sure the code is gonna come back. Let's read the code again. Yeah, right there. So the code came back. So whatever that's happening is a fault, and it's a hard fault. Okay, so now let's go to our wiring diagram. Okay, so we want to check this big fuse. Okay, this fuse over here is what I'm about to check. The EPS fuse, it's a 70 amp fuse. So that fuse lives over here in this fuse box. So now I'm gonna grab my test light. So we're gonna use our test light to check the fuse. So the key is still on in the vehicle. I'm gonna open this fuse box. So the power steering, I don't know if Kyler can see this. Do you see this over here? This 70 amp, and it says EPS. So this is the power steering system fuse. So it's this fuse over here, this one. It's a big fuse. So to check that fuse, we're going to remove it. Let me test my test light first. So we're gonna connect our test light to ground. Let's connect our test light to ground. If I touch power, test light is gonna light. As you can see, test light lights. So this over here is the fuse. Right there, we have power on one side of the fuse. Now, this EPS fuse has power on this leg, but the other leg goes down. So we're gonna have to remove this entire fuse to check it. So I'm gonna turn off the engine. I'm gonna turn off the key. The engine is not running. We're gonna turn the key off. So I'm gonna have to remove this little screw over here, this Phillips screw. So you have to remove this Phillips screw to get to the EPS fuse. And this fuse is kind of a combination of fuses. So let me grab my multimeter. Let's remove this little screw here. Now to remove this fuse, there's a little clip on the other side of the fuse that we have to push back, and then we're gonna pull this. There. Nice. So here's the fuse. Okay. Right there. So this, you see, we have multiple fuses on this fuse block. So this big one is our 70 amp fuse for the EPS. As you can see, it's not open. It looks good. We can also use our multimeter to test it. So I'm gonna put my multimeter on the ohm scale. Let me put this over here. Actually, I can put this right there. Maybe right here. Right there. So if I put these two together, we're gonna have a reading on the multimeter screen. So if I put these two test leads together, we have a reading. So that shows that we have continuity through the leads. So if I connect my first lead to this pin, and then this over here, we should have readings on the test on the multimeter. You see that? So this fuse is good, this 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 is good. So none of these fuses are open. Okay, so our 70 amp fuse for the EPS is good, so I can reinstall this. It's always good to check fuses. I mean, we could have checked the power wire that goes to the EPS electrical connector to see if there's power there. That's another way of checking the fuse, but getting to this fuse is pretty easy. Okay, so we got the fuse installed. Actually, while I'm here, I'm gonna check these other fuses. Let me turn the key on. I'm gonna turn the key on in the vehicle. Let's just go down the line really quickly to check all these fuses while we're here. In case there's another fuse that's open. Okay, so all the fuses we checked are good so far. Okay, so we don't have an open fuse in this fuse box, so that's good. Let's put the cover back on. I'm going to turn the key off. Okay, so now what? Let me grab our scan tool. Okay, so we checked the 70 amp fuse, so that's good. And then the next thing we need to check is we have two more fuses, fuse 6 and fuse 12. They are both 7.5 amp fuses. They are under the dash on the driver's side, under left end of the dash. Okay, and one of them supplies power to the EPS. Hold on, all these wires are highlighted. Okay, so it's gonna be this wire over here, this purple wire. So on the EPS control unit, it's gonna be D16 or pin 16. So let's check those fuses. Let's check those fuses in the vehicle, and after that we're gonna do the test at the EPS control unit. All right, before we go in the vehicle and test the fuses, I wanna show you the electric rack and pinion. So here it is. If cameraman Kyler can show you guys the electric rack and pinion, so it's down there. I hope you guys can see the black wire and the red wire and the white wire. So those three big heavy gauge wires, and this connector comes up all the way here, okay? And I believe on the service info, we were being asked to do a continuity test between these wires, okay? Between the connector at the electronic power steering control unit. No, we're gonna do the continuity test on the wires at the connector at the electronic power steering control unit. But these are the wires that they were referring to, okay? So now, let's go in the vehicle. We're gonna check the fuses first, and then we're gonna get access to the electric power steering control unit. I'm leaning towards a defective electric power steering control unit, but we're not just gonna change it. We have to do our testing to be 100% sure that this vehicle needs an electric power steering control unit. So now let's go in the vehicle. I have my power probe here. The power probe is connected to the battery, so I have good ground on the power probe. We're going to use our test light to check our fuses. So our fuses are over here. So this is our fuse, little fuse box. Okay, so we're gonna check these fuses. I'm gonna try not to be in the way. Okay, so I don't know how we're gonna do this. So we have to turn the key on. Kyler, can you turn the key on, please? Is the key on? Yeah. Awesome. So we're gonna check these fuses. I can't see, so let's see. So that one is not. Is the key on? There. Now we're on. Okay, let me make sure that our test light is working. Test light is not working. Not right there. The battery is weak. Let me put a battery charger. All right, so let's check our test light. Okay, that's much better. The battery was starting to get weak. So now, let's check these fuses. So the outside is good. This one is good. I doubt it we have a fuse problem, but we gotta check. We're not gonna assume. Can you still see this? Is my head in the way? Okay, good. As long as my head is not in the way, we're good. It's good. So all the fuses I checked are good so far. It's good. That's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. Okay. So all our fuses are good. We don't have a fuse issue. Now, at this point, it's kind of not. So at this point, it's kind of useless to check our powers and grounds at the electric power steering control unit, because if we had a ground issue or a power issue, we would not be able to communicate with the ABS. Not ABS. Why am I thinking of ABS and ECMs? So what I'm trying to say is, if we had a ground issue or a power issue to the electric power steering control unit, we will not be able to communicate with it with our scan tool. The fact that the scan tool can talk to it, that tells me that we probably don't have a power or ground issue to the EPS control unit, but if you want me to check it, I can still check it. So now what we need to do is, let's get access to the electric power steering control unit. So cameraman Kyler, if you can turn off the key to get to the electric power steering control unit, we're gonna have to remove the glove box. So what I'm gonna do is, okay, so we're not recording here. We don't have to record this for now. We're gonna remove the glove box. So to remove the glove box, I'm gonna have to remove this little cover here that covers the fuse box. So I'm gonna use my little trim remover tool. We're gonna pop this, okay, this piece. I'm just gonna put all these pieces back here, and then we're gonna remove this piece. Okay, it's gonna go back here. And then we're gonna remove this trim over here. So this piece just pops off. So I'm gonna find a way to pry this. We're gonna carefully, let me open this. Nice. I'm just gonna pop that off. Careful. There we go. Okay, we didn't break anything. All the tabs are intact, so we're good. We're gonna put this back here. And then we have a bottom piece down here that also pops down, just like that. Nice. And then there's a little connector here. Okay, let me make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we're gonna disconnect this, just like that. So we got the bottom cover removed. Now the entire glove box is gonna come out. So to remove the glove box, we're gonna have to undo these Phillips screws. So these 3, and then we have 2 more down here. You guys probably won't be able to see the bottom ones. So there is one screw over here. I'm gonna undo this one. Okay, there's this screw. And then there's another one over here. Yeah, this is gonna end up being a EPS control unit issue. I believe that's what it's gonna be. All right, and then we're gonna undo these ones up here. And then this guy. So now this glove box should be able to come out. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna remove this side cover. Yeah, that's gonna come out. Nice. There we go. So that's it. We're gonna disconnect this connector. There's another connector over here that we have to undo. It's a tiny little connector. I don't know if I can show you how I'm going to disconnect it there. So there's a little tab behind this connector. So here comes the entire glove box. Here it is. I'm going to put it back here. So cameraman Kyler, can you see this box over here?
Yes.
You see there's this red blue connector,
Yep.
This connector, and then this one. Remember the heavy gauge wires we saw under the hood? It's actually these ones. Okay, now this over here, this box, this is the electric power steering control unit. So it has, sorry, my head is gonna be in the way. It has a 3 10mm bolts. So I'm gonna have to undo the bolts for it so I can remove it. So there's one bolt over here, and then there's 2 more up there. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a 10mm. I'm gonna undo the bolts that hold the electric power steering control unit down, and then we're gonna lower it here so we can do our testing at the wiring, and then we should be done. So I'm sure this control unit is I'm sure this control unit is bad. So let me grab the tools we need. So we're gonna undo these. You guys won't be able to see what I'm doing up here. After I lower the EPS control unit, I'll show you the bracket. So let me see if I can get to it from this angle. Oh no. Where did my socket go? Oh, right here. So many connectors in the way. So jammed in there. Let me get a different extension. Dang. Alright. Sorry guys, I'm gonna be in the way. You guys won't see what I'm doing. But once I take this out, I'll show you what was happening here. last one. The last one is somewhere down here. Oh man. You know what? I'm gonna go disconnect the battery. Let me go disconnect the battery. All right, guys, I disconnected the battery because I see some airbag wires here, so I don't want that going off on us. So we're gonna have to move this this fuse box out of the way. Okay. Jeez. Okay, well, looks like I can just disconnect these over here. And then these guys, nice. And then this one, okay. And then this guy, all right. We're making some room here. Oh, and then there's this airbag connector here on the side. All right, I don't know how well you guys can see this, but basically what I'm doing is I'm disconnecting all the electrical connectors back here so we can remove baby. The thing is, there's one connector back here behind the fuse box. I can't see the back of it, so I don't know how I can disconnect it. I can see the back. There, we got that. Okay, we got this guy. Then we got this guy. This. Oh man. We're making a mess. Connector mess. Okay. All right, so the thing that I couldn't remove. Which one is it? How do you disconnect it? I had to do all of this just to disconnect this little yellow connector. Isn't that crazy? Nice. Ah, jeez. All right, so now we can push this out of the way, and then this guy can hopefully come down. When people say, oh, it's just a module, you just connect two connectors, it's easy. Yeah, see? Easy. Who told you this was easy? It's heavy. So this is the electric power steering control unit. All right, so we're gonna do a continuity test on the wires that come from the rack and pinion, and after that we should be good. I'm pretty sure this is bad, but we're gonna do a continuity test before we finish our diagnosis. So the bolts that I removed go over here. So there are two over here and one down here. So this is bolted this way. And then you disconnect these electrical connectors. So before we do our testing, I am going to actually, I'm gonna have to reconnect. I'm gonna reconnect the fuse box because we're gonna have to move the car. So the car is now gonna stay here. So let me get all these connectors out of the way. We're gonna put this back here. And some people would wanna like to see me struggle with this. So now I'm going to reconnect this connector here. Okay. And this one here. So I'm just reconnecting the connectors on the fuse box. I'm not gonna install the bolt. Okay. So this one's gonna go here. This one here. This one here. And then this guy here. And these ones over here and here. Okay. Where's the other connector for this thing? Okay. So we got this, that. These ones go to the electric power steering. Oh, here it is. I was like, I'm missing a connector here. Oh, here it is. It got tucked back here. So this one's gonna go over here. Nice. So now, these guys go here. This one's gonna go over here. And then this one is a little short. Actually, we don't even have to reconnect all the connectors. Okay, so we were gonna do a continuity test at these pins. Okay, because this one goes over here. All right. Yeah, this one goes here, and then this one. And then the red and black go over here. So can you see these connectors, Skyler? Okay, so let me read our service info. Let me go get new gloves first. I got the electrical connectors of the electric power steering control unit connected. Now, to be honest, we don't really have to connect them. We need to do our test at the big cables that come from the rack and pinion under the hood. So the red wire, black wire, and white wire. So these 3 wires over here. Now, let me look at our service info. I'm gonna get the screen recorder going so you guys can see this. So our service info is recommending to us that we do a ohm test. So over here on this one, for example, we're gonna do a measurement between pin 1 and 2, and then we're gonna do a measurement between, basically between all the wires that come from an electric motor. Remember, it's an electric motor. You're gonna have U, V, and W, okay? So you should have continuity between the winding, or the winding inside the motor. So to those of you that really know how electric motors work, this will make a lot of sense. So we just have to make sure we have continuity there. They are not giving us a ohm scale, I mean a ohm spec. We don't have an ohm specification. Now, on this one, on this connector here, oh, actually here it is. So this is even better. So EPS motor, EPS motor 3P connector. So we're gonna do a resistance test between MV and then MU, and then we're gonna go between MW, so we're gonna go between right here. So MV and MU, and then we're gonna go between MU and MW, and then we're gonna go between MW and MV. Okay, so you can see this diagram here. Kylo will put this up so you guys can see. So we're gonna do a measurement there. We shouldn't have a resistance measurement. I believe, if I remember correctly, if the rack and pinion is good, if the electric motor, because the electric motor is part of the rack and pinion, if the electric motor is good, we should have 0, on the multimeter screen. If we have a reading, that could be an indication of high resistance in the electric motor. So we should have 0 there. So we have MV, MU, and MW. So which will be the white heavy gauge wire, the red heavy gauge wire, and the black heavy gauge wire. Yeah, so we're gonna make sure that our multimeter is in the ohm scale. So right there, let's test our multimeter. So I'm gonna connect these 2 test leads together right there. We have a reading of 0.0. Okay. Okay, so 0, we're good. So I'm gonna put my multimeter over here. Let's make sure that cameraman Kyler can see the multimeter here. Okay. Kyler, can you see the screen?
Yep.
You can? Okay. Now I also want you to see the test that I'm about to do. Okay, so this over here is the white wire. So I'm assuming this is MV. So we're going to connect to this one. Okay. And then, so our black test lead is connected to the white wire. Of course. Now my flashlight is dying. Let me go get another one. We're gonna connect our black test leads of the multimeter to this white wire that comes from the electric motor under the hood, and then the red one, I'm going to connect it to the red wire that comes from the electric motor. So if we have continuity between this white wire and the red wire, we should have a reading of 0 on the multimeter screen. So watch this. What do we have? 0, 0, 0. Okay, so that's good. What we don't want is seeing a reading there. If we have a reading there, if we have some type of resistance in the winding of the motor, then that would indicate that the rack and pinion is defective. Okay, so I like what I see. So now we're gonna move our red test lead to the black wire here. As you can see, we have continuity there. So now I'm gonna move this over here. Same thing. Okay, I hope cameraman Keller, you're seeing this. You're seeing this, right? You see those wires up there? Oh, yeah. Okay, great. So we have continuity throughout the winding of the electric motor. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, we're good there. So this over here tells me that the electric motor under the hood is good. The problem here is the electric power steering control unit. Now, there's one more test I want to do, because I'm sure some of you might ask me about this. Some of you might say, why aren't you checking your powers and grounds? Well, I don't really want to check our powers and grounds because we can communicate with it. You know, it's, the electric control unit, the power steering control unit is probably not sending enough current to the motor so that the motor can work properly. But while we're here, let's see if we can check our powers and grounds for the electric power steering control unit. And then we're going to make a call. We're going to call for a defective electric power steering control unit. So it's windy over here. Can you still hear me okay? Actually, guys, I'm going to tell you something crazy. I was telling cameraman Kyler, I was filming by myself the day before yesterday. I was working on a Chevy Cruze. You guys will see that video when it comes out. I was putting an engine on the Chevy Cruze and I had the doors of the shop open. I had our new light over here, our studio light. The wind knocked it over and it broke the light. And I was devastated. I was so mad. It ruined our nice studio light. And yeah, that light is ruined. So, and it was an expensive light. So now every time there's like a lot of wind outside, I'm always looking around. I'm like, where's the light? Let's make sure the light is protected. Okay, so here's our wiring diagram. So we have the white wire, which is pin. Okay, so we have, let me see. So this would be pretty easy to check. So, this would be easy. So let me make sure I'm screen recording so you guys can see this. So this is going to be easy to check. So this electric power steering control unit only has one ground wire, which is pin 1, and then it has one main power wire, so battery power, which is the white wire. It's a heavy gauge wire, so I believe it's these two wires over here, these two. So the black one is ground, the white one is power, and then we have an ignition power, which is D16. Okay, so let's check our powers and grounds first. So over here, so here are the wires. I'm going to disconnect them. Oh, I think I have the battery disconnected. So let me go reconnect the battery. All right, so we got the battery reconnected. Let me test our test light. So test light is connected to ground. If we send power to it, test light is going to light. Okay, this is not connected. My power probe is disconnected. So last stretch. All right, so test light is connected to ground. If we send power to it, it's gonna light. So right there, test light lights. So let's test our power wire first. So according to our wiring diagram, I'm gonna disconnect this. Our power wire is this white wire. So if I touch this white wire, if we have power there, my test light should light. Right there, test light lights. So we have power going to the control unit. Okay. Now we're gonna test our ground. So I'm gonna connect my test light ground to the power probe, and then we're gonna attach the other side of the test light to the black wire. Okay, we have ground there. Look, on the power probe, we have ground. So if I flip the switch, our test light should light. Right there. So when we send power on the ground side of the test light, since the test light is grounded on this side, test light lights. Okay, so we have good power and good ground at the electric power steering control unit. Now, we're gonna test our wake up signal or ignition power wire. So it's a purple wire, D16. So purple, okay, it's this guy. Let me grab a back probing tool. All right, so now we're gonna test our wake up wire or signal or ignition power wire, however you want to call it. So this purple wire here, I'm gonna back probe it. Okay, so on this connector, that's the only purple wire that we have. Okay, so we're back probing it. Now I'm going to connect my test light ground to our power probe ground. So always test your test light. If I send power here, test light is gonna light. Okay, so if we send power to the test light is gonna light. So I'm just gonna attach my back probe. As you can see, test light is not lighting. Now, are we making good connection or are we missing power? No, we're not missing power. You know why? Tell me, you know why? It's because the key is not on. So cameraman Kyler, if you can turn the key on. There. So as you can see, our electric power steering control unit is getting power. So can you turn the key off again, Kyler? Okay, so we turn the key off, we lose power. Turn the key on again. Okay, so we're good. So the key doesn't want to turn off for some reason. All right, so we're good. I'm gonna disconnect this. So we are done with our testing. Okay, so this module needs to be replaced. Okay, so the issue is a defective electric power steering control unit. So now I am going to call the customer and let the customer know about what we found. I'm gonna make an estimate. I'm gonna recommend getting a new electric power steering control unit. Once we get a new power steering control unit, we're gonna install it. I believe this control unit has to be programmed. So I don't have programming equipment now, so I'm gonna have to have my friend come out here so he can program this for us. So maybe in the future, that's one thing I'm thinking about. In the future, I'm gonna invest in programming equipment so we can start doing module programming here in our shop. But for now, since we can't do that, we can have a mobile mechanic come over and program this for us. So I'm sure the owner of the vehicle is gonna give us the go ahead to replace this module. I'm gonna get a new one. Once I get a new one, we're gonna install it and this is gonna be fixed. So I'm gonna leave this right over here. Cameraman Kyler, thanks for being here. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I hope you like this. So let us know. Everybody, thanks for being here. See you guys next time.